Okay, it's 7 o'clock. This is the Common Council meeting to be held Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. The meeting is called to order. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Present.
Alderperson Bailey.
Present.
Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Alderperson Akers.
Present.
Item 2 or B is opening prayer. We have Deacon Leggett here this evening.
Good evening. Let us pause for prayer. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day and ask for your blessings on all of us. The members of this Common Council ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as they begin their meeting. Give them the spirit of service and fill them with your grace as they make decisions that will affect this community. In a special way this evening, we give thanks to the men and women who served or are now serving in our military as we prepare to honor them this next Tuesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. We also pray for our first responders who watch over us each and every day. Dear Lord, keep them safe. We pray this to you, who are Lord and God forever. Amen.
Amen. Item C, would you please join me while we recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, moving along, I'd entertain under item D, approval of the October 21st, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes, sir.
By Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
By Alderperson Sarian. I think he just pointed to her. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under Mayor's report this evening, there's a couple things that I would like to bring to your attention with regard to FEMA reimbursement to the city for the public losses within the city. I drafted an email to Governor Evers. I just kind of want to read it to you because it's germane tonight as we go through our budget. Governor Evers, on behalf of the City of Greenfield, I would respectfully request that your office formally appeal the FEMA decision denying public cost reimbursement of costs and expenses related to this year's historic severe flooding. With a budget that is already adversely revenue restricted, Greenfield's taxpayers face a significant fiscal challenge and obligation as a direct result of the flooding. Actual expenses and damages approach $1 million. A summary of those expenses and damages by FEMA categories attached. Of course, the substantial documentation previously submitted and reviewed by FEMA is available if so required. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. It wasn't very long ago that we had some pretty significant flooding in the city at levels that I'd never seen before. Tom, our emergency manager, and all the department heads feverishly on tight schedules put together, investigated, got quotes, figured out what things cost, got things back in order. We had an issue at Clement Manor where the fire department reacted swiftly, saving a lot of property damage and a lot of those residents being relocated. That stuff all costs money. And we didn't hold back spending the money because safety is of critical concern in our community. And providing the service that everyone expects is of critical concern. But as I go through the budget during the public hearing here this evening, I want people to understand that things that you see on TV that magically get repaired or replaced, or people that get rescued, or whatever happens, costs money. And with the levy restrictions and all of the other things that our city is subject to, and this idea that stuff flows downstream, it's usually brown in color. I have to present a balanced budget every year. You have to approve a balanced budget every year. We have a very we're, and I'll go through it in the procedure, but we can't raise taxes, right? To meet expenses. So when we get whacked with $1 million of unforeseen, unexpected damages that are, historic in nature, the flood was historic in nature, that has a significant fiscal impact on our community. So I would urge, for the record, that Governor Evers appeal the FEMA determination where, for some reason, municipalities are being adversely impacted by the decisions further upstream. The second thing I want to talk about tonight, before we get into the other items, I issued a statement this evening that I'm going to read. I note that there's a reporter here from WTMJ that was like, are you going to read it tonight? Or So I am going to read the statement. And this is the official statement with regard to what has recently transpired within our community. We understand criminal charges have been filed against Chief Jay Johnson, who is currently on paid administrative leave from his role pending the completion of the city's internal investigation into alleged violation of city policy, rules, procedures, and expectations of conduct. Although Johnson is presumed innocent until proven guilty of these criminal charges, they appear to be serious charges, and we do not take them lightly. To ensure the integrity of the criminal investigation, the city was asked by outside criminal authorities to pause its internal investigation for multiple months while the external and independent criminal process occurred. The city has resumed its internal investigation and seeks to conclude the investigation in a timely, thorough, and fair manner. Johnson is entitled to due process and will continue to be paid administrative leave, will continue paid administrative leave through the city's investigation as is required by state law. That's my mayor's report. Is there anybody from automatic reports under F? Announcements?
I think the farmer's market is paused for the winter.
The farmer's market is paused for the winter, and temperatures are expected to be in the 30s this weekend. Yikes. It's too early.
Good time to take your hose bibs off.
You take your hose bibs off, for sure. You might want to uncoil those hoses and drain them so they don't break. Yeah. I can't believe the summer went this quickly. Citizen commentary, I don't know if there is any this evening.
None.
Okay, we're going to move along to I, which is the public hearing. Item I1A is a discussion regarding the 2026 budget and adoption of a resolution levying property taxes. My screen just went dead, so if I could look at yours, that would be kind of helpful. Our IT director is here. I'll talk to him about that later. I'm sure he kicked a cord or something. Okay, so Tim over there is going to be going through this. This is, of course, this is the night, and it's 2 weeks earlier than it usually has been. It's usually in the middle of November that we wrap this up. This year we've been working feverishly earlier to try to get it going. There seems to be a pretty good process in place. Before we begin, I want to thank all of the department heads that all of them are here tonight in one way, shape, or form, or are available throughout the process leading up to this. The Finance Committee has been presented the budget. All of the alderpersons have been given the opportunity to either talk to me, to talk to the Finance Department, go directly to the departments to determine whether their needs are being met or not being met, or if there were questions with regard to the things that were placed in here. I don't get notified when alderpersons go and talk to department heads, nor do I want to. This budget is completely transparent. There's nothing to hide. I go through sometimes contract negotiations, which fortunately have been completed, and there's, oh, he's hiding this, or he's hiding that, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. For the folks, hopefully, that have been around for a while, there's nowhere to hide stuff in local government. Maybe there is in county government or state government or federal government, but there isn't here. So a couple changes that are related to the budget. The first is the addition of a special revenue fund for the turf skateboard park. There's revenue that flows into the park from the cell tower and potentially from the billboard in the future. As part of the agreement with the DOT, when we purchased the 2-acre parcel for the turf, the revenue streams that were generated on the property had to stay on the property for the benefit of the park. So while there may be this idea, well, that's a cell tower and we should get that revenue and it would sure help the city, the reality is it was part and parcel of the agreement with the DOT to keep that in. So a park, a skateboard park, has certain maintenance responsibilities every year. They have to paint this, they have to fix the concrete, they have to do whatever they have to do, right? This money is being set aside in a special revenue fund, just like the AMP fund, I think, is the other one that we use, to make for the benefit of the long-term benefit of the park. That is also important. We recently, Jeff and I and others have recently applied for a very significant grant through the state of Wisconsin that would for the park. It's a cultural recreation kind of artsy kind of grant, a significant one. As part of that grant, it's a matching grant, but it also requires that whatever money is, if it were awarded, there's some proof that it's whatever you're putting it into is sustainable. Throughout the years, I've watched a lot of money in other places be dedicated to build beautiful things, only to watch it sort of disappear over the course of time through lack of maintenance and money. This is intended to make sure that doesn't happen at the park. The changes to refuse and recycling fund rates that you note there, the Johns contract is up. There is a new contract before you. And these are the rates essentially with CPI under the terms of the contract. It's not real exciting stuff talking about refuse and recycling rates, I don't think. The other thing that's sort of significant in the budget is that we've added one employee position this year in partnership with the Greenfield School District. A police liaison officer will be assigned roughly 3/4 of the time to the Greenfield Middle School. The Greenfield School District is paying $75,000, or roughly 1/2 of the cost of that officer. That is adding a police officer to our community. Yes, it's true that for 3/4 of the year they'll be at the middle school, but when school isn't in session, that officer will be able to relieve and supplement the rigors of summer. So that's a good thing. Next. So this is the total budget for the city. This isn't the total budget that you pay property taxes on. The general fund is usually the one that everyone is focused on. That is how the operations of the city take place. The special revenue funds, did you itemize? There we go. Look at this. I could do it without even the things here. Special revenue funds like the library, storm sewer, grants, park and recreation programs, farmers market, the AMP, have specific revenue sources that are committed for specific purposes. Enterprise funds, sanitary sewer, and refuse recycling fund can only be used for specific purposes. Capital project funds are for capital improvements and for buying stuff like police cars, fire trucks, lawnmowers, streets, right? And debt service funds are the funds that we use to pay debts. The city has 215 full-time equivalent employees. 62% of that is dedicated to public safety, primarily in the police and fire department. The city also has 35+ part-time employees that work at the library, the DPW, and the park and recreation department. This is a breakdown of the general fund, our operating budget. The police department is overwhelmingly the largest user of assets at over $12 million. The fire department is three-quarters of that at $9 million. DNS, which includes engineering, DPW, inspection, and community development, is $5 million roughly. Of the $5 million, much of that is at DPW. Park and Recreation is at $1.5 million. Finance Department's at $1.1 million. Health Department commitments are about $820,000. IT is about $900,000. City Clerk is $700,000. It goes on from there. The Municipal Court, which is at $384,000, does a tremendous amount of volume and a tremendous lot of work for $384,000. This is how it breaks out in a cute pie chart. 72% of our budget is services. Police, fire, and public works. Revenues, this is how we pay for things. It's not all taxes. Many departments generate revenue for the city, and the police and fire departments being two major contributors. Not all revenue is the same, and some departments' revenue is meant to pay for the services that they provide. For instance, in the Park and Rec Department, their budget is $1.5 million, and it brings revenue into the special revenue fund, which is sizably above that amount. That special revenue comes from registration fees, rental fees, concession revenues. Last year's Director Scott told me that they had over 25,000 registrations in the Park and Rec Department. Now it's up to 30-something thousand, I think. That's pretty darn amazing, right? That's what that $1.5 million does. It generates money, and that in turn makes the city a better, more livable place. Inspection Department generates about $430,000, or it's anticipated to. If not for these departments, annual revenues would be affected. How do we pay for the general fund expenditures of $34,000?
Million.
34 million, yeah. It would be
wish
nice
it
if it
was
was 34,000. State shared revenue. You hear a lot about this, that a couple of years ago there was a significant increase in the shared revenue. It had been flat for almost ever, and it wasn't some kind of nirvana. In 2023, in Act 12, they went in the right direction. Our aid just go to the next slide. Shared revenues now 26 million, okay? If you go back to before 2023, it had been about 1.5 million. So we received about $1 million more, and it didn't come soon enough. And that is an important consideration as we go through this budget. So shared revenue jumped about $1 million. Okay, next. Then there are state aid revenues. These are different than shared revenues. This is the transportation aids, fire insurance aid, tax-exempt computer aid, video service provider aid, and personal property aid. The thing about personal property aid is it's a payment from the state when the personal property taxes were eliminated previously. That used to be a levy increase. That used to be part of the levy, right? This is the state aid revenue history. It was about $1.7 million in 2012. In 2023, when we were talking about the other stuff happening, it was about 2.4 million. And with the addition of the personal property tax aid, it's about up to 2.75 million. The difference is that while there is that jump that you see there, it comes from a decrease in the levy. So the levy will have decreased by the amount of the aid that we're receiving, which essentially means that it's a neutral sort of financial occurrence. Next. These are other general fund revenues. These are licenses, permits, traffic tickets, charges for public service, mostly ambulance runs and stuff like that, right? Intergovernmental charges, miscellaneous revenue. It's all there, and I don't have to read it all for you, but that's a significant amount of revenue for our budget. That's about $8 million worth. It's more than state aids, and it's more, and state revenues, state aids and shared revenues combined. A lot more. So this is how we pay for the $34 million budget that I'm asking these folks to vote on. It starts with 34 million, you take the shared revenue of 2.6, the state aid revenue of 2.7, the other general fund revenue, which is fees and ambulance runs and all those things, of 8, and payment in lieu of taxes, which are pilot fees, which are very small. Those are usually paid by churches or something. That means that we need, after all those other revenue streams, we need $20,500,000, right? That's how much we need to levy. Which brings us to the most important thing, the people that call me and probably call every elder person and probably here on Nextdoor or Facebook or whatever, you know, I pay $6,000 a year or $12,000 a year in property tax, and what are you doing with all that money, right? The levy. The levy is the total amount of property tax that the city can collect in a given year. Any increase to this total is governed by state law and a formula on net new construction within the city. Special consideration for the annual debt service requirements is required and necessary, and we can get into that. The levy formula. Now, I'm not going to go through this levy formula because it's sort of what it is, right? But it basically looks at last year's, it looks at net new construction, and then it says what you can do this year, how much money you can actually levy. Everything said and done, going through this formula, this budget, if it was entirely based on revenue coming from the levy and nothing else, we would be able to raise the levy, total amount of taxes throughout the city, by $130,000. Next. So where does the levy go? The majority of it goes into the general fund. You can look at it, there it is, you guys all seen this kind of stuff before. It funds the post-health care fund, right? So when there's folks retired and we have obligations, it goes in there. It funds the health reimbursement arrangement, the HRA, which is the difference between the deductible you pay as an employee if you have health insurance here and the actual deductible of the policy. And it funds the general fund. And it funds, if you look at the bottom, the debt service fund. There's some strong consideration that we have to talk, I'll talk about later with that. And $6.6 million of debt. Okay? Let's talk about the levy limit. The levy limit basically allowed us to raise the levy by 0.56% or the $130,000 that we talked about before. There's another state formula that we have to pay attention to called the Expenditure Restraint Program formula. The Expenditure Restraint Program also provides funding to the city if we keep our expenditures in line based on the formula that we have to follow with them. Basically, the Expenditure Restraint Program says, based on all this other stuff that's going on, we think you should be able to raise your expenditures by 3%. Or, which ends up being about $1 million. Okay? So, geez, that's a good thing, right? There's this other formula that says that we can raise our expenditures to meet our actual expenditures or nearly close to what our actual increase in expenditures are. The problem is with Expenditure Restraint Program, it doesn't provide the ability to raise the levy to do that. And it's also very restrictive when it comes to other things as far as revenue increases. Next one. So this is just another example of expenditures by function and the revenues that are kind of associated with it. Taxes pay the majority. They pay 61% of the budget. 6 out of every $10 go to pay the budget. And roughly, if you look over on the other side, the expenditures that we collect or that we make, 6 out of every $10 basically goes for police and fire protection. So one could say that the entire tax levy, for the most part, pays for police and fire. It doesn't because we have those other revenue things and things are intertwined. Okay, next. Capital improvements. In this budget, there are a whole bunch of anticipated capital improvements. These are projects, these are roads, these are parks, these are library roofs, these are all sorts of things, right? And there they are. There's about $13 million worth of stuff that we have to do next year. And there's capital equipment. In the old days, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I see Roger Pizak here this evening, former city attorney, and he probably sat through a lot of meetings way back when. And way back when, we had these capital equipment cash schedules, right? We had this thing that every year we created all the things that we needed to buy, and because we didn't want to get stuck with a big payment one year, we kind of put money away from the levy and we put it in these accounts, and when we needed a fire truck or we needed dump trucks or we needed a computer, we had saved up the money from the levy and we could go and pay for it with cash, generally speaking, unless it was a large item, and sometimes we borrowed for those. Now, every single levy dollar that we receive goes to the operating fund or one of the other funds that were delineated. Every single piece of capital equipment that we buy now, whether it's a little lawnmower, 50 computers, police cars, a fire truck, dump trucks, is all paid for with debt. And this going into next year, you will note that it's about $2.8 million, and boy, it sure looks like Public Works is getting what are they doing, how'd that all, why are they getting all that, and why are we getting anything, right? Because we're gonna be taking receipt of trucks that we ordered a year and a half ago, and which have also gone up in price, and thank God we did. The bill is coming due for those. That's not a lot of capital equipment expenditures. If you look at the Parks Department, it's a lawnmower, I think, or a truck. That's that. Okay, next. If this is what the capital equipment funded request trend looks like, it's going up. It's going up for a couple of reasons, even though we have pretty new fire trucks now, and even though we have pretty good lawnmowers and we have pretty good police stuff, if they're not getting kind of crashed and stuff, we have pretty good stuff, right? But and I'm looking at the police. Sorry, man, I was looking at him.
That was pretty
like,
direct.
Yeah, this one's hiding over here. He's not, I can't see him. He looks like a firefighter from here. No, but the trend is up, right? You go to the grocery store, the trend is up. If any of you have tried to buy a car, the trend is up. If any of you have gone to a gas station, although prices are down recently, things are going up. Everything's going up, and that includes, huh?
Gas is going up.
Yeah, I don't get all that. But this is a problem. What this means is that over the course of time, we are going to be borrowing more money to buy the things that we need. And I think this is pretty much what that shows. Let's talk property taxes. Back to I pay $6,000, $12,000 a year in property taxes, right? You should plow my street. You should have a police officer in my neighborhood making sure people aren't speeding. Why aren't, I write all of this stuff, right? They have all those big fire, whatever, right? I've heard it 10,000 times in 20 years. I pay, right? So let's look at this chart. So every year, the city of Greenfield, Paula and Tim and the finance department compile all of the stuff from the school districts, MATC, MMSD, and all that, and we send out a bill that says City of Greenfield, pay the City of Greenfield $6,000, $10,000, whatever it is, right? And people come in and they stand in the hallway over there, or they go to Tri-City across the street if Tri-City still does it, or they go to Associated if they still go there, and they're griping, right? What is the city doing with all this money? Why are they wasting all this money? What are they doing, right? So this is a breakout of where those tax dollars go.
Estimate.
Yeah. So Tim is an accountant over there, and he's going, it's an estimate, it could be $7.38, not $7.66, and, geez, we're gonna somehow be held liable by somebody. Generally speaking, with the best information that we have, this is a breakout of the expected or anticipated breakout of where that money goes to. And you can see what it is. And this probably helps better, right? So yes, it's true that say it's a $10,000 property tax bill, and everybody's entitled to all sorts of things. $3,500 of that $10,000 is what actually comes to the city of Greenfield. And I want you all to remember this when people talk about property taxes. I want you all to recognize that the budget that's before you provides great services to this community. The people in our police department, our fire department, our public works department, our clerk's office, and our engineering office, and our finance department, and our parks department, and our library are some of the best people there are. And there aren't a lot of them. And they provided a tremendous amount of service. For example, and I just want to point this out, when we had the flooding that I was complaining about not getting the reimbursement from FEMA earlier this year, within 2 weeks, our neighborhoods were cleaned up. Within 3 weeks, I think most of the damages and expenses and everything had been compiled in a way that it could be presented to somebody under incredibly tight schedules seeking reimbursement. The city collectively, all of the employees, doesn't matter what department they're in, served us incredibly well and very cost effectively. So when someone, I don't know, all right, next. Tax rates. This is a big one, right? Oh, I pay this much per thousand, right? Well, before we were reassessed back in, what year was that? I can't see.
This one?
2023? Is that the year we got reassessed?
Looks like it.
Yep. I can't see, I'm getting old. Paying close to $30 per thousand, right? But the problem was that the value of the houses at that time, right, because they were completely out of whack with what they were being assessed for and what they were really worth. So you're paying $30,000 or $30 per thousand on a house that might be assessed at $150,000, but was truly worth $300,000, right? I'm exaggerating, and I can provide real numbers, Tim, if we have to. But as a point, there was a direct correlation between what the rate was and what your house was assessed at, not what it was equalized at, what the real value was. When we reassessed 2023, 4 in there, the rate dropped dramatically. We were that far out of whack. Okay, next. This is a concern that is happening again. So for years, we didn't want to reassess. There was COVID, there was, low interest rates, there was this happening, there always seemed to be some reason that housing prices would correct themselves. And if you look at the history on the right, the 10-year history, you'll see up until about 2019, we were pretty close, 90%, right? And then you saw the escalation in housing prices, where in 2022, the assessed valuations were about 75% of what they were actually worth, and we were required by the state to reassess. We were quickly back up to 100%, right? That's a good thing. That means that, right, everything's nice and, do you see the trend? The trend as of 2025 is that we're back down to 88%, which is still okay. It's like 2019. But if it continues the upward trajectory of residential, and it's mostly residential property driven, this can be a bad thing. Next. So, to wrap things up a little bit with the budget, okay? What makes the city a better place? All right? I've been doing this a long time, and I talk to mayors, and I talk to people all over the place. What makes the city a better place is really three things. There are people that put on seminars about what makes cities better and, you know, what makes communities more livable and all of this stuff, right? One thing that I hear, and maybe you all hear every day, there's a community to our east that seems to be having challenges with livability. Things like safety and services are constant criticisms that I see in the news and on TV and whatever, right? So to make Greenfield a better place, and my only goal as mayor has always been, and I hope every department head can recite it aloud, because when I ask, it's like, what's our goal here, right? Is to make the city a better place. Safety and services are a primary driver of making a city a better place. You want to be able to go out and walk your dog in your neighborhood without fear of this or that. If you have a heart attack, or if you slip and fall, or if somebody's in need of something, or something bad is happening, you want prompt service. Not only prompt service, but professional service, trained service, people that know what they're doing service. I think we have fulfilled the safety and services part of our obligation to the taxpayers. Do I wish I had more money to have more officers and to have more of this and the more? Yes, I do. We all do. But with what we've had, fire, police, public works in the morning, getting to work in the morning, even though I live on a cul-de-sac, I'm one of the last ones plowed. Just saying. We have phenomenal service. Next. Schools are important. We have, I think, very good relationships with both school districts. I watched as a community nearby us was struggling with police liaison officers and putting police liaison officers in schools and how this and that. We've been doing that for 20 years. And the relationship with one of our districts, we're adding another one at their request. Now the districts are different, you know, there's this perennial, when I was around little, I lived on the east side, and I guess now I live on the west side, and I guess but the differences between the two have sort of changed to the point where we are now a community. The superintendents work together, and they work with Greendale, and they work with other school districts locally. We have good school districts. Next. And then the final thing is this quality of life and a reason to live and visit. You know, the AMP, which was built by our Public Works Department for a few $100,000, and which is programmed by our Park and Rec Department and the special revenue fund that we have, is a place during the summer that I'm very proud of. I remember growing up, and I remember going to like things at parks and kids just running around and people just sitting in lawn chairs, and you know, I go to some of those concerts there on Tuesday nights, and it almost harkens back to those days of they're just families there on blankets and lawn chairs listening to music and talking and enjoying themselves. I think of the farmer's market that you mentioned closed, right? I
the
saw a couple,
season. Just for the season.
just for the season, yes. In season, that place is packed. And when you go and talk to the vendors, they really enjoy it. It's one of their favorite places to be, and they keep coming back. We think of the turf, and I understand that the turf, it's like, well, what are we spending on, what are we doing with the skateboard? What are we doing, right? I just got a letter or an email from somebody out in Spokane, Washington, who, the turf is the first example worldwide of a skateboard park that had been previously buried coming back to life. One was just unearthed in Scotland, and I've been talking to a professor out that way about, what we did. And apparently there's another one in the country, or another country, I think. I've been busy day. That wants to know how we did it. At the turf, we had our first Olympic visitor to the city. The bronze medalist from Brazil was in Chicago and drove up because he had to skate it. Tony Hawk, whenever he's around, and everybody knows who Tony Hawk is, so I drop his name as much as I can. Whenever Tony Hawk is around, he stops by, usually unannounced. Lance Mountain, who was one of the best vertical skaters in the 80s, spent a week there before the park opened. Skate touring groups from around the country come and visit it just because of its historical significance. And we got it for $1. This is the kind of stuff that makes the city a better place, and it's organic. It's not fake. We didn't hire people, consultants for $50,000 or $60,000 to say, what can we do to get people here? We all collectively worked as a community to add these amenities. Okay, next. How do I make this stuff happen? How do we all make this stuff happen? How do they make it happen? We manage our revenues and expenses. It's really that simple. Next. I'll let you read all that stuff. But generally speaking, as I referred to before, there isn't any wasteful spending in our budget. I mean, people could say, well, why did you buy pizzas or something? I don't know, because it probably saved us hundreds of dollars in overtime or something. I don't know, right? But we don't waste money here.
We bought pizza?
I just remember a story, and I won't repeat it, but there was a fire chief once who bought pizza that cost a couple $100, and an alderperson found out about it and was just up in arms that they're spending $200 on pizza for a lunch to do something. And then it was pointed out that there was some kind of training going on, and that people had come in, and that a significant amount of money had been saved, well in excess of $200. So the price of the pizza saved money. And I don't want to, if any statute of limitation with regard to union work rules or something is long since passed. But generally speaking, we don't waste money around here. And in fact, we spend it incredibly prudently. There are folks that are out there that are saying, well, we should just buy toilet paper with those guys, and and we'll save all this money, and let's just delay that lawnmower purchase, right? And that's not going to save money in an $80 million budget, folks. Okay. But we do those things anyways. This is the big thing that bothers me, though, is that we're being forced to borrow debt. We're being forced to borrow instead of being able to find some revenue stream to pay for the things that we should be paying for in cash. Next. This is where I'm kind of getting negative, okay? And I apologize to everybody. And I want to kind of read this. The people providing the vital services are the largest, most impactful expense to the city. To fund revenue gaps in the future, people will need to be cut and services will need to be diminished. This makes the city a not better place. The state's levy limit formula, as it stands, will never provide enough levy increase to meet growing expenditures, ever. While the city is growing, we cannot grow meaningfully enough, and at some point, we will not have any more room for growth. And this pays for 61% of our budget. And most of our budget is people. It's not lawnmowers and toilet paper. Next. The state's shared revenue and aids do not keep meaningful pace. All of that's talk and all of that stuff in the press and all the things that everybody's talking about, look at, we've increased this and that. It only provides 16% collectively of the budget. Other revenues will practically, as a practical matter, can't be increased. You watch the news now, right? You've heard New Berlin is thinking about a wheel tax, or this community, Wauwatosa, is thinking about changing its leaf pickup schedules. Milwaukee's charging for streetlights. Other people are talking about charging for streetlights. We should create a road utility, so we can charge for this and we can charge for that. None of those things are long-term solutions. Milwaukee County right now is contemplating raising its wheel tax again. That ain't gonna help anything. Other revenues, all of those other things are a quarter of the budget, but there really isn't any more revenue to be gained there. And any revenue that is to be gained is de minimis when it comes to what we fund the budget with. This is the thing, the state's expenditure restraint incentive program, the ERP that I always talk about, it does allow for a reasonable increase in spending of what it could be. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you can't generate the appropriate revenue to cover it. Next paragraph, or next. On top of this, the levy burden, the property tax burden, is being shifted to residential property owners whose values keep rising while commercial, retail, and medical properties aren't growing at a similar pace. So when you saw that chart where it says it's at 88% now, right? If I were to reassess tomorrow, property taxes for residential properties would go up again, substantially more than they will now at the current rates. And we're constantly being sued by the big users of our service in our community, like Walmart. Walmart sues us every year. This is a public record. I'm not slamming on Walmart. I appreciate their new logo. I'm glad they didn't paint their building the new colors because I think they're ugly and they're going to repaint it, in a few years anyways, right? But we're there every day. And they continue to challenge the value of their building in bizarre ways. We'll leave that up to the courts. We spent 3 or 4 weeks in court recently defending our assessed valuations, and we await a decision. But we got papers filed on us again recently, right? If they're successful at those things, and they shouldn't be for all sorts of real legal reasons, that just shifts that valuation that they had been paying to the residential property owners as well.
As well as the legal fees.
In the legal fees, so it's a catch-22. Do you pay or don't you pay? You can say, well, it's going to cost so much money if you don't do it. We should just save the money. But if those that valuation goes on forever, that shift goes on forever, and it's not fair or right, in my humble opinion. But I leave that to the courts. The reality is residential property owners cannot be expected to be able to tolerate continued high burdens. This is a big problem. While a lot of folks are talking about leaf collection and wheel taxes and, increasing park fees or registration fees for gymnastics or something, this is a big problem. Next. What does it mean? And I keep saying this, and it's like, I'm not sure why every community is not saying this. I know the finance directors are saying it to each other all the time. I never hear it in the news. And I don't even know if there is any news anymore. There must be news. There was somebody here tonight. They're not here listening to this. It means that there is not going to be the ability to continue to fund current city functions unless levy limits are changed to allow an appropriate increase, State shared revenue and aids and/or other revenues are increased to fund reasonable ERP formula-like expenditure increases. With property tax burdens already being high, shared revenues and aids could increase to disperse the burden. That would require the state to provide us more in aids and shared revenues. Other revenues are not a practical option. You can't keep raising, you can't tell the police, you know, you gotta just double your tickets. You know, tell your fire department, well, you know, you gotta double your, you know, your service go out there more, right? There are real costs to that. So there are some tough choices ahead. If nothing substantially changes, many cities and villages will not be better places, and this could happen quicker than one thinks. Next one. Questions? Finally, with this budget, I mean, we spent a lot of time tinkering and moving and balancing, and I think we have it in a good place for 2026. In 2027, things are going to be really challenging. And I know I say this all the time, and I said it 3 years ago before the shared revenue increases came, the $1 million, which saved us at the time, and we didn't just blow it, kind of, right? I think that's a fair statement, isn't it? Other communities just blew it. Oh, look at candy. So that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions?
Early on, you mentioned that we just created the special revenue account for the turf.
Yes, for maintenance.
Yeah, so now, the plan always has been, it's gonna be fundraising that's gonna support a lot of it, but we have $800 and some thousand that we anticipate going on a long-term loan on. Can we start now fundraising or make an actual effort
We will
towards
never
it?
raise it. You will never raise it.
Well, that was the promise.
Jeff is here, we could, so the anticipated improvements to the turf to finish it, okay, are roughly $3.5 million. 2.2, you have that chart? I should have known that we were gonna talk. We recently did a grant, okay? In the grant, we laid it all out with regard to the land. The land valuation that we're receiving, that we're going to be gifted, is about $2.2 million, I think. That's the land. The improvement of the parking lot, which is about 1.5 to 1.6 million, I think, is that about right? Is also being paid for. The bathrooms, the restroom, the shelter, just like the one at Conkle Park, is $700,000, $800,000. Of that $800,000, approximately, and I don't have, how much was it? Park fees, 145,000.
Yeah, it's a combination of park fees and
Long-term debt
yeah,
of, I think it was 500. Was it 500? 600?
I don't have the numbers.
580. 580? I forgot. So the debt associated with that is 580, I think. And so you couple those things together, of the 580 in debt for the bathrooms, essentially, plus I think it's 145 in park fees. I think, is that the number? 585 is debt. How much? 221 in park fees. The $2.2 million of, I'm going through this because it's in my head. The $2.2 million land donation from Cobalt. The $1.5 to $1.6 million of parking, okay? That's part of phase 2. Additionally to that, we're in the process of applying for a grant for $1.2 million, which would expand the park. So this is that money that you're talking about.
So we're using The matching funds will be the land that we already got.
We haven't gotten it already, for one. We won't receive it until the DNR
We've been
signs.
promised.
We have been promised once the DNR signs off on it,
So we're not trying to match with fresh money.
we're trying to match with money that we, yes, you're right.
That helps.
Does that make sense?
A little bit more. It was scary. But I still think an effort to raise money is still there because every time I've been there, they said you should have fundraising efforts
The
and,
585,000 is put bathrooms in
okay.
and to increase the potential for revenue by renting the shelter in the event, like we do with the other shelters potentially.
I just don't want to see the other parks deteriorate to fund this one.
The other parks are not gonna, I don't think are
Well, you're
gonna.
taking the revenue off
So
chunk of
the
it
park
from
fees that are,
park fees.
so the park fees that are elsewhere going to, they're not gonna fall apart because they're not part of the operational budget, they're part of the capital budget. As part of the capital budget, there's there's looking at Jansen Park with regard to the pickleball courts, and that, did you know that? That they applied for community block grant dollars and all that, and we're bundling all that, and we're working with MMSD to put a parking lot in there, right? Right?
Was it done
So
already?
things like the pickleball courts that are anticipated at Jansen Park, by eliminating the old
Yeah, yeah.
baseball diamond that nobody uses anymore and turning into a pickleball court, even though I don't think it's the best place for it, I'd rather have it at Conkle, but that's my own opinion, and we can disagree. But
Just limited
the other
spots
people
where
in
you
the
can spend the
community.
money, yeah.
Huh?
There's limited places that you can spend that kind of money.
There are limited places that you can spend that kind of
Community
money,
block
and
grant
there's
money.
none that has the historical and worldwide, honestly, significance of this park. The reality is you can leave the park as it is with a gravel well, you can't because the DNR is requiring that it all be capped. But assume, you could cap it and you could just have a gravel driveway or a gravel parking lot. And we could call it a day and we can continue to have porta potties out there. We can do that. I would prefer not to, but that's why that part's in there. So, yep.
You'd start charging, put coinage for the.
We can't start
stalls.
so-
No, for the stalls.
Yeah, so we can't start charging. That one of the other things with regard to the agreement with the DOT was that it had to be a public and free park.
It just
And
meant the bathrooms, you could charge for the bathrooms.
you could probably charge a service fee for the bathrooms. So concurrently, we're working on, and I met with a person last week to create a nonprofit, Friends of the Turf. So when it comes to the programming at the turf and events, having an annual musical kind of thing to benefit the turf and to do the kinds of fundraising that you're talking about, and to get the social media out there that it needs to be, and to do the kinds of sales of skateboard items and stuff like that to support the park. We're in the process right now of creating that paperwork. Once we create the funds group, we're gonna layer on top of that a foundation, which will act in a different capacity with regard to the Friends group. The Turf Foundation should be able to generate bigger streams of income from other foundations from around the country and locally.
I know that you have been occupied with something since April, so, yeah, I understand.
Been busy.
Yeah.
It's been busy time.
I just keep going on that.
It's fine.
Thank you.
So there is a request in the budget for debt, for a bathroom, a shelter that's rentable and can create an income stream at the turf. If it's excluded, we can continue to use porta potties. But I would suggest to you that the investment in a shelter at the turf, in the long run, will provide greater revenue streams and greater access and greater usability of the turf. There's a return on investment associated with it.
I'm good.
The only thing that we might not want to change in it is that we may have to enhance the fixtures to make them more durable. by putting like stainless fixtures in instead of porcelain and all that kind of stuff, just so you know. So, all right, is there anything else? So, I guess the public hearing, this is a public hearing, right? So I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
By Alderperson Akers, is there a second? Second by Alderperson Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All the, all the numbers back from the state, correct?
Say what?
All the numbers from the
Yeah.
state, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to find my paperwork here.
We did not get a copy of that.
It's in your packet, because
Is
I
it?
Yeah,
printed
was
it, but,
emailed.
but when I printed the 3 pages that it was supposed to be on, I got all 50 pages. So there's a resolution. It would be, whereas the city of Greenfield has prepared an annual budget for the 2026 fiscal year in accordance with the requirement of the City of Greenfield Municipal Code, and whereas the Common Council has reviewed the proposed revenues from all sources and the proposed expenditures for all purposes, and has directed that the proposed budget be adjusted accordingly, and whereas a public hearing on the annual budget was held on November 4th, 2025, after due and proper notice of said hearing having been given in accordance with the provisions of Section 65.90 Wisconsin statutes, and whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of $29,656,631 exclusive of TIF levy to fund the expenses of the city contained in the 2026 annual budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council in the City of Greenfield as follows, that the 2026 annual budget, a summary of which is attached, and you should have that attached, I believe, in your confidential packet, which contains all the updated money, right? Or all the figures that had changed since it was originally presented, and those were essentially de minimis, they weren't significant changes, they were basically the inclusion of the numbers that we received from, okay, yep. Summary is attached here too and made part thereof, and B, and is hereby approved that the property tax levy is hereby levied in the amount of $29,656,631 exclusive of the TIF levy on all taxable property within the city of Greenfield as returned by the assessor in the year 2025 for the purposes set forth in the budget. I'd entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution as presented.
Motion by Alderperson
Page 5
Kastner.
apparently.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Drzwicki. Would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Entertain a motion for reconsideration,
Motion to
or
reconsider.
I ask for a motion. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
Ask an attorney over there.
I can say, so somebody recently said, you can't ask, I entertain a motion for reconsideration. Is there some other way I'm supposed to say that? Is there a motion? Is there a motion for reconsideration?
I'll make that. I'll make a
Okay.
motion to reconsider.
By Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
I'll
opposed?
make a motion to reaffirm the.
That was unanimous. I motion to reaffirm by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Drzwicki. Would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Motion carries. That's done. Thank you all very much. Old business, I don't have any appointments. Under K, claim received from Morgan Zapolus.
The claim was referred to the city attorney.
Okay. Item K2, approve applications for 2025 and 2026 operator license. Entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve, subject to all the.
Motion by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Drzwicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3 is discussion decision to transfer $5,000 from the Police Department Equipment Replacement Account into the Capital Equipment Account, as indicated. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
By Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian, would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey, Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Item 4, adopt an ordinance establishing the 2026 service charges for the collection of garbage, refuse, yard, waste, and recycling services. This is from the Board of Public Works. And entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
By Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers, would you call?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5 is the discussion decision to renew an agreement with John's Disposal Service for refuse, recycling, and yard waste disposal. This was also the Board of Public Works. Entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
By Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Juzwicki, would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Motion carries.
John's Disposal does a great job. They were at our meeting the other week, and they explained their services project, and it's great.
I would just point out again, as I talked about the flooding earlier this year, the responsiveness was amazing. They're lending us equipment. Just, it was almost as if they were part of the city. And of the $1 million that we talked about for expenses and damages caused by the flooding, the John's Disposal bill was not a significant part of that. It was about $60,000, $66,000, something like that, wasn't it? Which is mind-boggling, right? For how many tons were there? 620 tons, I think? Is that right? 620? Or 580? And 2 weeks worth of, yeah, it was, yeah. No, we're blessed to have them as a disposal company. They're
Very
incredibly
blessed.
responsive, and so I take items 6, 7, 8, and 9 together. Those are the mileage reimbursements, schedules of disbursements, investments and reinvestments, and financial statements for September. And entertain a motion to approve.
I move for
By Alderperson Sarian. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Would you call?
Alderperson Juzwicki.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Items for future agenda. I'm not aware of too many right now. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Alderperson Akers at 8:07. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Juzwicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are now adjourned.